Hey guys, we're northwest corner of Schmeekley Reserve. We've put up this mist net. It's 12 meters long. It's about 6 feet high. It has 2 shells. It's actually for ducks. Works well for Cooper's hawks. This is a caught female. This is who I actually wanted to catch. I'm very happy. And she was stooping on the owl, and that owl represents a threat. And so she was trying to drive it away. And this female's unmarked. Now, when they hit a mist net, it's constructed such that there's a loose extra amount of net and it forms a pocket, so they drop down into it when it works well, which it did, of course, here. So what you have to do is find which pocket, the top or the bottom, they came in. She came in from the top. I can clearly see there's a gap. So I'm going to go around to the other side, and I'm going to put my hand in to extricate her from the pocket that she came in. Their feet are the most dangerous aspects of their body, so that's what you need to worry about. So if you look closely here, I've identified a gap where there isn't netting, so that's where she came in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to free the net. There we go. See where I can see her legs? That's what you want to go for. So I'm going to grab her legs like that. All right. And now once I have her legs, now that's the exit that's going to free us from the net. So I typically go for the net on the talons here, carefully, so not to tear my net. Okay. And I'm going to tuck up her legs like this. By the way, this is a replacement female. The female that was here last year is either moved or she died. Or she's not breeding. It's possible. Goshawks. Sometimes females don't breed. So then I'm gonna, it's around her neck. That's very common. So you need to find where it is. Good. And then the last thing I have to do is it's tucked over her, so to speak, her wrist. So I'm gonna lift this net right over her wrist. Carefully, watch now. Oop. There we go. And now we're loose. And then if you're going to catch another hawk, I've actually already caught Dad here, or identified him. So then I'm going to fold up her wings, tuck her legs in. She's very upset. See how the feathers are hackled up on her head? Okay, so I've got her in a nice firm grip. Never gloves, always reliable contact by using your bare hands. And if I want to catch another bird, then I have to check the net. Make sure that it's still taut. So I'm going to put her in a tube. It's got holes on this end. These cans here are this particular size is perfect for a female coop. And then if you look close, you can see my net sagging a little bit here. So I'm going to retighten it. A very important component to setting the net, in my opinion. You can't have the owl too close to the net, because should he jump, and he's tied, he can't fly away. He's tied, so he can only move several inches when he jumps. But if you have him too close, then his wings could ensnare the net, which would ruin your trap. It also might cause him a wing sprain in the owl. Not likely, but it's possible. Also, if the net is too close to the owl, when a hawk hits, sometimes what happens is the net goes right over the owl, and the hawk might be close to the owl. You don't want that to happen. And very importantly, besides a distance away from the net, is this. This lower string for the lower shelf should be below the head of the owl, right? So when they stoop at the owl, they're going to go right above his head. So you wouldn't want this lower shelf string above his head, because they'd go underneath. So you keep this just below the level of the head, and that'll ensure that you get a good stoop. And notice that I have the owl in the middle of the net, because that will give me the most looseness of the net and will allow for a better capture. Should they hit, or if you put the owl near the end of a net and they hit near the end of the net, it's tighter, it's tauter. They would hit the net, they'd bounce out, no go, right? Also, you can't have any trees real close to the net. because when they hit, they could move the net up on a limb. So you need to have an open setting here. And always, always, the owl is in the shade. Today it's near 90 degrees, as I recall. It's the 30th of June, I think. And it's very hot, it's very humid. He cannot be in the sun. It could cause heat prostration, it could be lethal for him. And the other thing is, if I'm in a sunny spot, the net will glisten and the hawks could see the net. But here in the shady conditions, good for the owl, good for trapping because it's harder for the hawks, even though they have eyes like for them to see the net. In 41 years, I have never recorded the whole process of processing, banding, and taking measurements of a breeding Cooper's hawk. It's hard to imagine that not demonstrated all that recorded. So this is a first. Never too late, I guess. First thing you're going to do is you're going to put on the USGS band. Of course, these things have a unique number on them. These are lock-on bands. They have an extra lip, a flange that locks over a conjoining other construct flange of the band so that the hawk cannot pry it loose. I always put the USGS band on the bird's right leg. Okay, so I'm just going to extricate the legs and the feet and keep the body, most of the bird inside. So here we're going to go back in, Mom. Here we go. Beautiful bird, beautiful bird. So, again, genus Accipiter have long tails. This is the most specious genus in the daytime birds of prey. Long tail from a rudder and forested habitat, and long toes because they are bird catchers. And they have pads on their toes too, which help them grip their prey more readily. So I'm going to put the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service band on. Okay. I'm going to do 12, 6, 6, 007, 64. After you've written it down, look again. 1266 007 64. Now we're going to lock on the flange. This is a pair of pliers that I had custom made with a little teat or a tit there on the conjoining, if you will, jaws, so that I can crimp the band more readily. It'll be a little. And there's no way that that ever is going to come off. Okay, double check and make sure that it's a nice circle. Sometimes they go on a little unevenly. There we go. Okay, and then on adult birds, I put a custom-made color band. I always put them on adults, blue for females, red for males, and this always goes on the left leg. This is out of an outfit in Saskatchewan or Alberta, one of the western Canadian provinces. They're about $9 a band. They're very expensive, but boy, are they nice to use, because I don't necessarily have to catch this bird in the future. I can, with a scope or binoculars, or with a digital enhancement of a camera shot, we can read this band. Even people that see my birds, like in Mexico or Texas, can take a picture and send it to the federal government, and eventually that picture comes to me and I know where the bird is. So I always put a rivet in one direction, and then for added integrity, if you will, for my peace of mind, I put the other rivet in the opposite direction. So they're not just to have one leverage of force from one direction. Okay. And then since we're out in the woods, we can just throw these things away right out into the field. I'm kidding. These. The most important thing is to put the Fish and Wildlife Service band on first, and then the custom band. If the bird escapes while I'm going to take various measurements for processing it, then we've recorded the most important stuff. But let's get at it. So this is a card that It tells me the date. The species is a Cooper's hawk. It's a female. ASY means she's after a second year. She has at least 2 years of age, and it's because she has blue-gray plumage. Now this is faded because this is old, and these are brand new feathers that are growing in. And I'm at Schmeeckley West. Here's the band number. And then these refer to right primaries. There'll be 10 of them on a bird of prey. Left primaries, right secondaries. These will be proximate feathers, which I'll show you in a minute. Left secondaries. Tail feathers, right rectrices, left rectrices, and then some standard measurements that most ornithologists and raptor ecologists take. So, all birds of prey have 12 tail feathers, 3 and 3, 3. And this bird has dropped a feather on its left side. Up, here it is, it's growing in. Okay, so again, all birds of prey. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3. So these are molting, and these are being fed by blood. And you can see a sheath right here. Right here, there's blood flowing in it that carries the fibrous protein known as keratin. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is measure this tail, and I'm going to insert between the two central deck feathers. There's 2 rectrices, right rectrix 1, right rectrix 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Left rectrix 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to go right in here, and I'm going to draw a bead between the 2 elongated or feathers here, which would be the second rectrices. 200. This is in millimeters, so it's 200. And then I'm going to record the molt. Molt is recorded as old feathers, O. Fully grown new feathers, these blue-grays coming in, that would get an N if it's fully grown. They're not quite there. They're about 9/10 grown. So I'm going to put a 9 and another 9, and all the other feathers on the right side, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, are old. On the left side, 2, 3, 4, 5 are old, but 6 is probably a 2/10 grown, so I'm going to record a 2. And again, you can see what I've done here. 9/10 grown, old, 2/10 grown. 9/10 grown, which means it's a new feather, and these are old feathers. Okay. So, I'm done with the tail. Pull the bird, or as I often say, I'm going to go upstairs now. All right, so this is a female again. So I'm going to feel if she has any food in her crop, because I'm aware, and I'd have to subtract that. There's a little inflatable, if you will, portion of their esophagus, and when there's food, they can get a bulge. Breeding birds almost never have a bulge. They process their food pretty fast, and they give it to their kids. So the crop is 0. There's nothing in there. Okay. And now I'm going to look at her wing feathers, and there should be molt in there too. All birds of prey have 10 primaries, so I'm going to count, and they all start number 10, the most distal or distant. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, this is growing, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So these feathers are new. They've all grown this summer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're all going to get a new. This is her right side, so N. And number 6 is this one. It's growing in. And it's about 5/10 grown. And the rest are old. Then I'm going to go to her secondaries. Primaries number from 1 through 10, approximately close to the body, going out. But the secondaries, you start at number 1 and you go toward the body. So right secondary number 1 is, I'm going to give it a new 2, 3, 4 are old. 5, you can see this right here, that's a new feather. And in fact, that's the very first secondary that a female molts, a breeding female. Number 5, and then she starts with her right secondary number 1. Primaries always start with the right primary number 1 if we're on the right side, and then it goes, they call this descendantly, to go this way. So they go in order. But for the genus Accipiter, they start at number 5, and then they come in here, and then these are going to bolt in different sequences. So 5 is new, and the rest are probably old, which is standard. Now, that's her right wing. you might guess, those physicists that are in a class, that the left wing would have to be symmetrical because you can't molt one side different than the other, you'd fly in a circle. So, left primaries, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. She's doing basically the same thing, except number 6 is out a little farther than the other side on the right side. So this is her number 6 primary. Left primary 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 6 is all about a 6. The right side was about a 5. So it's going a little faster, but it's still the same loci, or the same feathers are molting on the right as are on the left for her primaries. Typically, the secondaries will do the same thing. So she started with number 5, and there's a blue-gray feather right there, and that's new. Number 1 is new, 2, 3, 4 old. Her left secondaries are just like her right secondaries. So that makes it easy for me to record. And again, typically they're symmetrical. Okay. So we have her molt recorded. Once again, N means new. Anytime there's a number, N means new, fully grown, 10 tenths if you will. 5 means tenths grown, it's a new feather, and old means an old feather from last summer. Okay. So now, very important measurement. So many ornithologists, whether you're a raptor person or not, they measure the wing chord. That's the distance from the wrist, which is here, to the longest primary, which on this accipiter and on this species accipiter cupra, going to be number 7, 10, 9, 8, 7. So it's going to be the tip of this feather right here. All right. 262. Again, that's in millimeters. I usually measure just the right side, and then I'm going to flatten the wing. I'm going to take out the camber or the curvature. Got to get the primaries right over the ruler to the wrist. 266. 266. Just do the right side. Wing chord is a very, very important measurement. Most taxonomists get that. Next, I'm going to look for fat. There's a fissure. Birds and birds of prey, like other birds, can lay, generally, most other birds, can lay down fat in many different places, but there's a fissure between the large pectoralis muscle and a muscle that's on the side of the body. And I'm going to blow these feathers apart, and the fat, and there will be some, it'll be a matter of how much, and the scale will be from 0 to 6, 6 meaning a lot of fat. The fat looks like an orange pinkish color. Hers is not quite as pink. It's about a 3. Again, that's hard to see. It's hard to pick up on a filming of it. All right, so I got fat. All right, we're almost done. So the next thing I'm going to do is her eye color. This is a standard eye color chart. I'm sweating because it's really humid today. So Cooper's hawks, when they're young, they have a blue-gray colored eye in the nest right now. But by the middle part of this summer, another month, it'll really be yellow. It'll start like this, and they'll have yellow, both males and females, pretty much their first year of life. But as they grow older, it'll change, especially so in males. Now, I call this yellow, as indicated here in the standard eye color chart, which is from the Handbook of North American Birds by Ralph Palmer. So yellow, I call this light orange, orange, dark orange, and red. They give them some different terms, but I've described that in methods. I've written several papers on Cooper's hawks. So put her eye, her head, close to the color chart and line up. The darkest part of the iris will be the lower part of the eye. And which square do you think that it lines up? Maddie, you want to point? Okay, so record orange. All right. So we're done with the eye color. Now we're going to weigh her. Yep, I am well aware that the population of scientists the world over have gone digital. And yet, here is a triple beam balance scale. I am old, and so is the scale. And I just decided, since I started in 1980 weighing the birds with triple beam scale, I just continue essentially to use it. It's heavy, so I usually find someone much younger than me to carry it because it is so heavy and I can barely lift it these days. I'm kidding, am I? All right, so we're gonna tip her upside down. Don't want to have her tipped over too long. She's warm in here. All right, total weight is 733. Tube weighs 186. 7. It's 4. It's a small female. She weighs 547 grams, about a poundish. But importantly, she is about 35 grams below, let's see, about 30-ish grams below the average weight of a female breeding Cooper's hawk when they have young, probably about 2 weeks of age. I always try to capture around the same time of the year so that I can level the playing field in terms of comparing weights of breeding birds. If you weigh the birds when they have eggs or before they lay eggs, females, for instance, weigh more, and so do males. So I'm trying to standardize my timing of such. All right, so I am done with her. Oh, I did this for quite a few years. I'll show you how it's done. It is hypothesized that the genus Accipiter, which in this particular case is a bird-catching hawk, and again, as I said, they have long toes, that a longer toe would enhance capturing soft-tissued birds in midair. And so, as an index to the reach, it's the length of this toe that can be measured accordingly with that hypothesis. And then you measure from where the talon begins to the beginning of the middle toe, which is right at this juncture. So it's right there, 41.4 millimeters. I have discovered, in fact, I just published, that relative to the mass, which is a good index to the size of the bird, Wisconsin Cooper's hawks actually have a little bit less of a reach than do British Columbia Cooper's hawks, which are much smaller birds, but they have a significantly, if you will, in relation to their body mass or their size, longer toe. And they catch more birds than do Wisconsin Cooper's hawks. So it seems to be in accord with that hypothesis. Away from the net, and just toss her up. Off she goes. This is from Fox Pro, as you can see here. It's a blaster. It has all kinds of predator calls, and they actually have some raptors on here. And I can run a remote from just hundreds of yards away if I want, and then I can prompt this to play. And that's a Cooper's hawk. So I place this broadcaster near the owl, because sometimes when I set the owl up and I move away, I can't be right next to the owl, they'll see me, they may not see the owl. So it lets the hawks know the specificity of where the potential danger could be, and it expedites the trapping process because you draw their attention much sooner than you would otherwise. So, part of my task when I'm in the field working on Cooper's hawks is I have to climb trees, which I love doing. I love climbing trees, so I'm glad I have a job, and part of my job or actually to get to do this. So I use some fairly standard climbing gear, but like my weigh scale, many things are older. This is a Will and Sid harness. It was made by the Brits way back in the day. They don't make these anymore. They have lighter and updated, but it serves the same purpose. It's like wearing a chair. And these are standard climbing irons. This is a long spike here that allows me to go up trees when it's safe to do so. And what I mean by safe, getting a good grip, but also here in central Wisconsin, occasionally it's not uncommon to have a Cooper's hawk in an oak tree, and you should not spike oak trees. Pines can take it, and I'm going to spike up and I'm going to rappel down. So I try not to injure the tree and minimize as much as is possible. Again, standard climbing gear. And I'm going to set a rope here. I'm going to have an anchor on one end, and then when I get up there and I get done banding the young, then I'll rappel down the other side and not have to use my irons again. Some of you are probably familiar with climbing and tying knots, etc. The knot is actually important, but far more important is, if you can, minimize the use of a knot. Wrap it around a tree. There's no way with a knot, and especially being wrapped around a tree several times, that your rope is ever gonna not be able to handle the weight that you put on it. And heaven forbid that a fall should happen. So I put a standard bowline knot in. This nest is up about, this is a white pine. Most Cooper's hawks in the state of Wisconsin nest, about 45-ish feet. This nest is higher than that. It's probably closer to 60 feet. This is a 150-foot rope, so I can go up 70-ish feet, and then I have the other half to rappel down. So I've got plenty of rope here. And I've already climbed this tree once earlier this spring in May, because I counted her eggs. I can't remember how many she had. It was 4 or 5. So now I'm going to unfurl the rope so that it goes up nicely. Obviously someone is filming this now, but over most of the 41 years, I do most of this work by myself. So usually there's not anyone with me. So safety first, always make sure everything is copacetic. There aren't any sticks in the way of prohibiting the rope from coming up as I climb. I'm going to attach it here with another bowline knot to my harness. So there's my elevator down, and then I double check. I'll need gloves for rappelling. I have to protect my hands. I need a belaying device, figure 8. And this is a lanyard, which I use. Sometimes I get in a predicament. This tree won't be a situation, but sometimes in a precarious spot, and I need to have both hands free. And this is a way to wrap around a branch or a very narrow tree trunk, and then affix it to my carabiner here, so I can loosen up and use my hands freely. And take the bird bands up. Bands are issued by the government by certain sizes. These birds are big enough, I can tell by the whitewash on the ground, that females will take a size 6 and males will take a size 5. 5 and 6 look a little similar to each other, so I actually write this down, 5 and 6, just to make sure. And always make sure you've got enough bands. Again, there may have been 5 eggs, there could be 5 young. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There might be 5 young, all of one sex. So make sure that before you go up that you have ample enough bands, which I do. All right, I have my banding pliers. And safety first. So I'm gonna don a helmet. All right, so nice firm grip on the tree. Reliable contact, never climb with gloves on. I wear the gloves only to rappel out, to protect my hands from the heat. But always a reliable grip on the tree trunk. Voila. So those 4 young, there were 2 boys and 2 girls. They laid 5 eggs. Again, there was an unhatched egg, which isn't that unusual. Happens about 10% of the time. And we'll take a look at it and see if it was fertile or not. And 3 of the young were the exact same day of age because 3 eggs hatch on the exact same day of 34 incubation period. The female starts incubating in earnest at 3 eggs all at once. Then she'll lay another egg maybe a day or 2 later, and then another egg a day or 2 later. So those eggs, the later laid eggs, assuming an equal 34 day of incubation, are going to hatch out such that those kids will be a little small. This perch works real well. Sisal rope for the owl to be is a good surface for their feet. Roughage, like a tree branch which has scaly and rough bark, is actually good for the tissue. It's healthy for their feet. He's tied here so that he can't escape, so I loop the leather leash around so he can't leave, because he would try to fly away and not want to be bit. This is a non-releasable owl. This is a male great horned owl. He's actually quite small. And he hit a car and he has a blind eye. So I have a federal permit from the Fish and Wildlife Service Region 3 office in Minneapolis. He can be used as a decoy to trap woodland birds of prey, and specifically, of course, Cooper's hawks. I addendum my permit so that I can also bring him into for education purposes. He was going to be put down. Again, he hit a car and he's blinded in the right eye, so he's a non-releasable owl. I've had him now for, we're not exactly sure, 16 years, something like that, which is a very, he was an adult when we got him, so I don't really know exactly how old he is, but he'll live longer in captivity because the governor buys him the best food that you can, and also he doesn't, he's not entertaining, so to speak, the rigors of the real world, because he's really only out and about in June, which I assure you, I don't think he likes trapping hawks, but I do.